we were doing very well with the business, so we were projecting 7% growth. And then COVID hit us. It kept on going and going. And on top, the business impact on my business unit was very, very bad, which of course has such a mental impact when you are working with a team that is convinced that we're on the right track to deliver the target or actually over deliver the target. And then you come in a situation where you don't have any influence or control anymore, and the whole business collapses.
So, hello, Claire, how are you?
Good morning, Murielle. Yeah, very good. It's a sunny day today and the day before the long weekend, so I'm all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to get you here on the podcast. We've been working together for almost a year now. A year since our walk in the park, or walk and talk in the park. Really nice. Could you maybe describe a little bit who you are?
Yes, so I'm Claire. I'm mother of two small children, 3.5 and 1.5, and I'm married to a doctor, an ICU doctor. And I live near to Brussels with a house with 2 cats and 3 chickens. And I work already nearly 13.5 years with Procter Gamble. And I just started a new function as of April 1st as the corporate marketing leader for France Benelux. And before that, I've done a lot of brand functions and worked on a lot of different brands within the P&G portfolio, but always within the P&G community. So my first job, and still there after 13.5 years.
Nice. It's funny because P&G was also my first job.
Yes.
That's what binds us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you understand the weird animals we are on how we work at P&G.
Yeah, the weird animals, but I got a lot out of P&G in my career, because I think it's so great, all the methods that you learn, all the trainings that you get. And I remember I was really drilled to think a certain way, and it makes you very, very efficient. And And you have always been successful, otherwise you wouldn't do such a great career, and you had a lot of resilience. But at a certain point, you felt things had to change. Maybe you can explain a little bit what happened and how were you feeling at that point?
So it was around last year, so exactly 1 year ago, maybe a bit longer. But I was just in a new assignment, leading a full business unit, and we were doing very well with the business, so we were projecting 7% growth, and then COVID hit us. And at first, I think everybody underestimated COVID. They said, okay, lockdown a few weeks and then we'll go back to normal life. However, that never happened in that sense. It kept on going and going. And on top, the business impact on my business unit was very, very bad. So we went from 7% growth to actually projecting to deliver under index 100, so losing versus the year ago, which of course has such a mental impact when you are working with a team that is convinced that we're on the right track to deliver the target or actually over deliver the target. And then you come in a situation where you don't have any influence or control anymore, and the whole business collapses. And on top, we had to work very, very hard because we had to make all these alternative plans to still maintain the most out of the business. So we lost a bit our hope of delivering the targets. We had to work day and night with the full team to actually see what we could still save in terms of business. And the fact that COVID was mentally taking longer than what we all anticipated, that combination led to a point where I thought I cannot do it anymore by myself. And as also when you're a leader of a team, and especially in tough times, you can feel a bit alone because you want to protect your team and you want to be the lighthouse for them and the support system. But sometimes you also need to think about yourself. And at that point, I was just running behind my own tail. And of course, my husband in the hospital had a very tough time because he was working on the front line, 2 very small kids. So at some point, I just wanted to escape my full situation. That is how I described it as well to my husband. I said, I just need to escape this whole situation. So then I called my coach that I had already via P&G. Her name is Valerie, and she also used to work at P&G. So she also understands a bit where I'm coming from, like you do, Murielle. And she was very helpful. She listened and gave me some tips and tricks. And then at some point we said, okay, it's not only me that needs help as a leader, but let's try and help your whole team, because you're not the only one in this one. The full team is actually in a very bad weather. So let's see what we could do for your team. And that's how we came in contact, Murielle.
Yeah. And what was the effect on your team then? Because you said it was not only me. How was your team feeling?
Exhausted and finding it hard to find the motivation to continue powering through. You can do that for a few weeks. Okay, we can go on the last mile, but if the energy balance is not good anymore, and I think a lot of people at P&G, they thrive on the combination of working together as a team, seeing each other, having the 1 + 1 makes 3, and having to work at home and also in very tough circumstances, mothers with their kids at home, single people living in 30 square meters in Paris downtown. So there were very also personal situations which led to people just not having the right energy balance anymore. And especially the fact that we couldn't see each other. And also for me, that was also a very insightful aha, that I needed to connect with people to get energy to do my job better. And from a work from home situation, that was just impossible. And we had to adapt. And now 1 year later, I can do that. But in that point in time, I was not able to fully regain the energy balance by the adaptations that were needed.
Yeah. And do you remember, well, now we are almost a year further, what were habits that had always served you in the past that were not serving you anymore at that moment?
I think when you have a crisis, which we thought COVID was a small, condensed crisis, then you put your team together and you shoulders underneath, and okay, we run a bit harder. But because the crisis kept on going and months and months and in a prolonging, I think the fact of just putting the shoulders underneath for a short period of time to get it fixed could not happen anymore. Because one, we couldn't fix it because COVID was an external factor that we were just had to deal with. And second, the timing was just taking too long. So the energy was not there at any point. One, because I didn't get the rebalancing of energy because of the people working from home. And second, it was just taking too long. So habits of connecting the team in a crisis, ideally in one room, divide and conquer, and then we go and fix it, that was just not possible anymore. Working from home, taking too long, and an ongoing crisis that was too big for us to solve.
Yeah. And maybe also the habits, because that's also what I remember from P&G. You are all very productive, very efficient, and often very hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it seems like working harder was not possible anymore in this case.
No, I think everybody tried their best to do what they could in the circumstances that they were in. And again, very different with kids at home, feeling alone, all the different situations that we had. But the amount of hours were just done. We couldn't invest more. I also couldn't invest more. I was just, the battery was getting depleted, and working weeks on end until 10, 11 is just also not my strength. I'm not a good evening person in the sense I need my sleep, I need to recuperate. And I think that was also one of the biggest ahas that we learned in your course, was how to maintain the energy balance. And that's taking a break, you should not feel guilty about it, because it then gives you again the energy to actually perform at a higher level when you again re-perform, instead of just going like a little mouse on the wheel. at some point you just get tired. So you need to pause, your famous word, pause, re-energize. And I think people were feeling guilty that they were having to do that or wanting to do that because everything was on fire. So taking a walk during working hours, or going to do sports because the curfew was at 6, they didn't do it because they all felt a bit guilty. And I think that was also the ahas at letting go on that, and that it was actually good to take time for yourself, that it had a positive impact on the business, was I think a very nice learning that I hope a lot of people implemented.
Yeah. And yeah, I've already said it, but I find that you are a very courageous leader. Courageous for two big reasons, probably more reasons, but two reasons in my eyes. Well, first of all, you also decided to share your vulnerability, your difficulties with your team, which requires a lot of courage. I meet sometimes leaders that are quite inspiring, but then they don't share any of their issues, which makes it difficult to relate to them. But the other thing that I found very courageous is that you decided to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was a CEO, I wasn't used to asking for help because I had this false belief that asking for help meant that I wasn't strong enough and good enough. So it was really like a lesson for me and a difficult exercise to start asking for help. But you did it. And is this something that you do often, or is this something also that you thought, okay, this is really not possible anymore and now I need help?
I think what I said before is, as a leader, you can sometimes feel a bit lonely, right? Because you're at the bottom, the top of the team, and people look up to you and they expect that you have a solution or an answer or a decision for everything. But look, I'm 37. I'm a young lady. I don't have the solution for everything, and I'm not a superwoman. Although everybody wants to be one, and I also want to be one, right? But I also discover my limits. That's one, from a personal point of view, but also second, I also I'm still very efficient and effective, and I want to be. And if I can ask help and therefore be able to help my team or deliver better business because I ask for help, I see that as something positive. So one is I'm not a superwoman, so I also need to be coached, and I'm young enough, and I want to learn, and I want to develop. And second, if it can speed up the process to deliver things better within the team or within the business, I just see it as a normal business strategy, actually, to ask for help.
Yeah, but it is, and it's smarter, and it's the way to go. But well, I still meet a lot of leaders not really capable of asking for help, and especially not for themselves. Maybe help in consulting for their team or their organization, but help for themselves, that's still quite unique. Well, of course, more and more do it, but it's still something that people need to learn. And maybe what would have happened if you hadn't asked for help? What would you think? What do you think would have happened?
I don't know, Murielle, but what I do know that would not have been positive. So if it would have been that I needed a break from work, or that I would get into a burnout, I don't know, but I at least know at that point that if I at that point continued, I would really want to escape. Now I felt I wanted to escape, but at least I had some parachutes that could help me along the way and make the fall what smoother. I think the fall would have been a much harder fall if I wouldn't have asked for some parachutes.
Yeah, yeah. And so at P&G, at Procter Gamble, you have a lot of trainings, and still you decided to start this Qileader program with us. In what way is it different than from the other trainings you took?
I think the two biggest differences in the training module that the Qileader program offers is, one, it's an training over time. So something that is not a classroom training that you immerse yourself in for a day or 2 days, and everybody is hola hey, yes, this is great, and then the next day they go to work again, and then they fall into their old habits, and then they easily forget everything that they did in the 2-day class training. So the fact that it's over time, that it's really driving habit changes because it enables overtime training. I think this was one that made it very unique versus what we have. And also, I thought it would be a much more sustainable investment. And the second thing that I liked is that it's an online platform that people could do it in their own time. Some people like to do the training early in the morning. Some people like to do the podcast over the weekend when they go walking. So the flexibility of the platform was also very much appreciated, especially because we launched it in the summer, and that we didn't know at that point, but of course we headed into another COVID lockdown, and then you need to be flexible as a employer, and as a manager to give people the opportunity to do it in their own time. And I think that's what was ideal on this platform.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I remember also we discussed it because, at P&G you have a very strong culture, and a strong culture of working hard and delivering, and with all the energy going up front in the action.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you, well, in this course, you're going to learn things that go a little bit against what you have always learned at P&G, because it's about also slowing down, pausing, and not the excitement of let's be all active together and go. Yes, there is that as well, but there is this rhythm of slowing down, pausing, looking inside of you, what is happening, and I remember we discussed that. And how was the impact of that on your team?
I think what you describe as being our culture of work hard, play hard, that doesn't allow people, or we don't teach people to maybe think before they do, because we just learn how to do, and then we learn the trick, and then we apply it. But sometimes thinking before doing, and really thinking, so taking a step back, helicopter, okay, what is the work that needs to be done, what's the priority ranking, what is really you have the diagram of urgent, important, not that stuff. We all get taught that, but in practice, we open our laptops, we look at the emails coming in, the meeting of the calendar, and we just go. And I think the fact that the two things that we implemented effectively is no email zones after 7 p.m. So people could pause at night and did not get the instant pausations every time of email in their phone or on their laptop. And we enabled on the Monday morning and the Friday afternoon no meeting zone, so people could start their week, think, okay, what do I want to deliver on the week? And then on Friday, reflect how did it go, and prepare already the week after, so that the people can go into the weekend, let's say, closing their work week. And especially, again, in COVID times where work and your laptop was on your kitchen table, having a closure moment was also super important. So those were actually the mechanisms that we put in place for people to enable to pause and think. But I think also the tricks that you learn, or the theory that you learn in the module, that's you need to understand a bit also your triggers in your body. And for me, it's a heartbeat that goes up, or breath that goes up, and then I feel a bit of anxiety popping up, and then I think, no, I need to breathe, take a minute. It's only a minute, but recuperate, and then, okay, I'm good, and then we can go again. But those micro, you call it micro breaks, I think those micro breaks are so important, just to get the blood and the oxygen flow again through your body, right? So it's, again, if you look from the theory, but also from the physical point of view, it's all super logical what we have to do. And again, because it's in the platform on an ongoing longer term basis, people could really adapt it and put it in practice, see the added value of it, and then continue to, let's say, embed it into their work life. Again, very different from a classroom training.
Yeah, Yeah, because I believe the secret is in changing our habits and our conditioned behaviors. That something happens and we are used to dive in and work very hard to solve it. And now we change that habit into something happens, we pause, we look at our energy, we increase it first, and then we breathe, and then we analyze things, and then we go into action and accelerate again. And it's so much more efficient. Yeah.
No, fully true.
And so at the end, what was the effect on you personally and then on your team of this training? What changed? I mean, how do you feel?
What I liked about the program as well is that, and how I also position it in the new team that I just started, is it's investment in yourself. So it's actually what people also and myself also suffered from, and why I also wanted to escape is because I didn't have any me time anymore. When you're working super long hours, when you have two very small kids, a husband that's working a lot, then the only thing that you do in a day is eat, sleep, work, kids, and that is it. And I also recognized that I needed some time for myself. And this program actually, I position it as something for me. So that in that sense, it was helping on two levels. One is okay, I could feel that was becoming a bit more happier because I was investing time in myself, and that time in myself I needed. And then second, I was investing in myself to develop or learn new theories, learn new habits, which also helped. And if I look at the effect of it, we started in July. Of course, the summer was also a little bit less busy. I went on holiday for 3 weeks, and that was also a great and needed break. And then I remember that we plugged it every morning from 9 to 9:30 in the calendar of the full team. And I think that the fact that it was in the calendar and people were reminded again every day of doing it, that people invested the time in it. And there was a discussion also enabled in the team on a different level. So besides only talking about work and how are you doing from a personal point of view, we could also connect with the team on this topic. And I think that also made the connection again in these more difficult times much stronger. And if I look at the results of the survey that you also did, Murielle, is I think we managed as well to connect better as a team, feel more part of a team, and feel a safe and secure environment, which I know everybody needs to thrive. And therefore, we were able to survive, let's say, that past year as a team. And I think that has been highly appreciated by the team, and of course gave a lot of energy back to me, because that's, as a leader, of course you want business results, but you also want your team to be happy and healthy, because that's also the majority of your responsibility, right? Because otherwise, if the people are unhappy and not satisfied, they will not deliver the business that you want.
Yeah. And I also enjoyed, because we did some sessions with the separate teams as well. And I liked also to see that every separate team had different needs to really improve as a team as well. In some teams, it was about saying no more. In other teams, it was about drastically reducing the number of emails and meetings sent. That was also very interesting to see. And that saying no and giving permission to say no is also something very important.
Yeah, and I think this the training again enabled a discussion on a different level with your team, right? Because you, as a leader, position yourself more vulnerable. That enables other people to open up better, and therefore the hierarchy gets out of the system, which I in principle don't like too much, the hierarchy. And I think therefore even the most junior people were feeling okay to speak up and share their voice and share what they were struggling with, because again, when you're in the trenches at the end of the funnel, usually the most junior people, they actually suffer the most, because it's the end of the chain. Then the work just needs to be done. But if they don't have the the feeling that they can speak up and share their point of view, it's again the energy balance that will not work at some point. So I think having the discussion at a different level made us connect much stronger.
Yeah. And also your results, because you were telling me when COVID hit, you expected your results to be very bad, and at the end it was better than what you thought. No?
Yes. So also the stores went back open. That helped in June, but I think especially the summer plans that we worked on delivered really strong results. So I think at some point we switched gears and said, okay, let's focus on what we can influence, and it's probably majority of the summer, because then the stores will be back open, consumers will be out of lockdown. And we worked together with the team to deliver the best summer plans that we could make. And I think there again, the energy from the work came back, because people were seeing again results of all the hard work that they put in. And it put us in a different place and space of mind when the next lockdown came in October and we all were sent home again. I think the fact that we survived and delivered the summer was a great reassurance that even in tough times and in crisis times, we could still connect and work as a team and deliver the business that we wanted.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, did you see an impact also on your family life with your husband and your kids?
Well, of course, if you have a mother and a wife that wants to escape the situation, it's not, I think, the most ideal setting. And I think the summer, the fact that I called Valerie, the fact that I went working with you, and as soon as I feel I can get back in control, in the sense, because I've asked for the parachutes to help and the longer summer break, I felt, let's say, end of July, beginning of August, I was back in my old self. And that was good. So I think it still took me maybe 4 to 8 weeks to get back into my into a better space. But and having good discussions with, of course, your husband, with my husband about it, and was important. And the family time during the holiday was also a way to regroup with the kids. So in the end, I think I was in time, and I was able to contain the period of impact because I was able to get the help that I needed.
Yeah, which again is really great, because some people, they just try to put whatever they're feeling like in a little box and just continue to deliver
Mm-hmm.
until that thing explodes and it hits you, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you faced it. You decided,
Yeah.
okay, I can feel it, and I'm going to face whatever I'm feeling, although it's uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise it can explode later. So yeah, great.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I also focus on, okay, what happens if I wouldn't do anything, right? And if I wouldn't have done anything, then I wouldn't have able to be the mother, the team leader, or the wife that I wanted to be. So I think if anybody feels in that type of situation, it's more of weighing the two worse in that sense. So is it worse to face the current situation now and find a solution and therefore get back on track? Or is it, okay, we hide it in a box and save it for later, but then the continuation of feeling not good and feeling unhappy or no energy, it just lingers on. So you're also not feeling happy. So I decided to take the short-term pain in that sense. Okay, we face it, we deal it, but then at least we solve it. And again, it's maybe very much linked to my solution-oriented character, but I think also what I realize is that I personally don't have the solution to everything, and there again the help comes in, that I needed somebody else to help me find the solution.
Yeah, no, nice. Because yeah, you say it's the short pain, but sometimes you go through a roller coaster of emotions when you decide to open that little box and to do something about it. And a lot of people think, yeah, but I will do it later when this is finished, or when this project is delivered, or when I'm on a holiday. But I often say, and then later never comes.
Yes, well, it's true, right? I read an article last week, again, also on this topic, that says if you focus on the then it will come because then it's holiday or then the project will be finished. It will never come because there's always an alternative popping up, right?
Yeah.
So again, dealing with it as soon as you can, and getting it out of the way. I think one gives two great benefits back. Is one is you you are working on the solution and therefore can get energy on that one, and second is you learn again more about yourself, so you can also adapt again your habits or learn new things to prevent it in the future. Because I also see that I'm mostly inspired by leaders also within the company, but also from external companies that know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you know yourself and you know what your flaws are, but also what your strengths are, and you're open about them, and you can connect with that leader on a not only on, okay, you're the leader, you tell us what to do and we follow you, but you connect emotionally to that leader. It's much more fun and nice to work for that type of profile, right? So I also aspire myself to be that type of leader that is there on each level with the employee, right? On, okay, if you need a decision, I can help. If you need coaching, I can help. But if you want to just tell me how your weekend was, I'm also here, because it's also that's what gives me energy back, right? I'm not a robot, and I'm also not a superwoman. I'm just a normal human being that likes the job that she does and loves working with the team to deliver a business. So in that sense, that's just who I am, but also who I aspire to be. And therefore, just spending time on developing yourself and knowing yourself is important for me to become the leader that I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I believe the more we climb in an organization, the more we have to go inside to solve some things that were still there and still preventing us to be really the leader we wanted to be, and the leader that others aspire to follow, like you say. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's difficult, and not everybody is used to it. Also, I think our generation is much more open to it than previous generations. So, and I think also the younger generation that we're hiring now is also expecting that, right? Like they're expecting from our brands to have a purpose. They also want the leaders to have a purpose and the company to have a purpose. So I think all that coming together is also uh, enabling a much more, let's say, integrated and connected organization, but also actually enhancing the requirements of what you need to be as a successful leader. It's not only a good strategic thinker and a decision maker. No, you also need to be a purposeful, authentic servant leader. Wow, if you all need to do that all, it's pretty heavy if you think about it. But again, if you can be your authentic self, know what you're good at, know what you or where you need help or support, and can be honest about it. Again, it's easy to tell and to write it on a piece of paper, but it's still hard work to practice it every day. And also to prevent you falling back in autopilot, especially when times are a bit tougher. It's easier to fall back. And we also talked about that, right? What happens if I fall back in autopilot is, okay, I get to delegate, and I should delegate more and co-work, but then I actually command is a bigger word, but then I tell people what to do.
Yeah, you become very directive.
Exactly, directive. And then that's good that I know it, and also open that my team told me that, because again, we're all here to learn. I call it always the backpack that I have on my back, and every experience just fills the backpack with new learnings and again, experience that can help me along my way. So again, I think the Qileader program has been a very enriching program. I think everybody takes out of it what is important for them. I think I'm looking forward to do it again with my new team. I think even myself, I will redo a few of the modules, and I'm actually wanting in the next run to spend a bit more time on the team transformation part.
Yeah.
And especially in a smaller team within the lead team, I think that will have then an even more material impact on not only the personal individuals in the team, but also on the full team as a business team.
Yeah, that's great, because that's how we shift, shifting from transforming ourselves to transforming our team and then the whole organization. Yeah. No, it's really nice, and I find it also exciting that you do it again with your team. It's also nice for me. It gives me recognition as well to my work, because sometimes I can be tough with myself as well and think maybe I should still I will, and I continue to improve it. But I also find it exciting what you said about purpose and values and what the young people expect, because a lot of people think that we go in these digital times and that we're all becoming robots, while the trend that I see is exactly the opposite. We're becoming, as leaders and as organizations, at least the more successful ones, more human again and more connected to ourselves and to others.
Yeah, and if I reflect on it, I think it's also a bit a compensating factor, right? So when you're all in an office all together, you think the facilitation of that drives the connection and the human interaction. Now that we're all at home and that our laptop is our way to communicate and see each other, I think then the level of connection just changes. One, it's more one-to-one. And second, I think also people have been much more enabled to let their guards down because they're only talking to a computer in that sense. So the vulnerability was easier in this type of setup, and therefore, and of course the context that we were in, because everybody knew it was tough. I think people were much more, at least in our organization, much more vulnerable than they ever been. Even with me and my lead team in Geneva, or my lead team here in France, Benelux, we just talked also on a different level again with each other, because we really wanted to understand, how are you doing? How are you surviving? How are things at home? How are things with your team? Questions you would never ask because it was taken for granted, or you would just do it at the coffee talk at the canteen. Now you really needed to spend time to connect with people, and therefore I think also the organizations are getting more connected. And beyond that, people are spending so much time on digital devices that in the time that they want to connect with something, it needs to be something that gives them purpose, instead of scrolling, swiping, typing, what everybody spends their time on. A team member told me, my new team member, he says, "Are you on TikTok already?" I said, "TikTok, no, I'm a bit old for TikTok." He says, "Okay, Claire, don't install TikTok. I spent 7 hours on TikTok last week." I'm like, 7 hours? Yeah. That's nearly a work day that you spend on an app.
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you do?" "Yeah, I watch funny videos." So
to
I think
numb yourself a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not even a one-to-one connection, right? It's one with a device. So therefore, I think when we then really spend time to connect, it needs to be on a much more qualitative level, because it's compensating all the robotic or machine connections that we have in our new lives.
But here again, I mean, you might think that it's normal with the COVID times, but I can assure you that there are organizations where they only talk about projects, and there is no small talk and no deeper connections anymore. So it's maybe because you created that environment that allowed people to share that vulnerability and to have deeper connections. Because truly, of course, with this, we are all going, with the COVID, we are all going through tough times. The mental health, it had a big impact on the mental health. But in quite some organizations, there isn't this safe space to connect at the level that you are connected with your team.
Yeah. Well, I think I just try to do my best, Murielle. I know it's not perfect, and I know if you ask the organization now, what do you want the most, and everybody says a team, physical connection, ideally a party. So I think there's still immense need for physical connection with people, and especially small talk. So having fun together. So I know this is super high on the urgency list, that as soon as every sanitary context gets released that we should plan for this. But again, I think, and I have to give a lot of credit to my team leaders as well, because in the end, I don't speak to every team member on a daily basis, but everybody in their sub team was able to at least emphasize that they needed to create an environment where coffee small talk was there at the maximum that they could offer at that point. And again, still probably not enough, and we should have done more. But I think we tried our best, and hopefully we delivered, let's say, above average on this one.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm really wondering what will happen to these first moments where we can physically meet and party together. I think it will be crazy in a lot of companies, because people, like you say, there is really this big need of connecting and of and of letting go of the control and just having fun. So really curious to see the first team meetings.
Yeah, and I think it's also fun to see the other people again of the organization, right? Because you've been so stuck as well within your own business unit. Whilst when you were in the office, you could see people on the floor and you would meet people at the lunch canteen, and that you also didn't have. So I've just seen people physically not since October anymore, or I haven't even talked to them since October anymore. So I think we also need to spend some time again to reconnect beyond our own business team, because you just haven't spoken so long. So I think we will even need time to re-establish ourselves as an organization, not only making all the sub-teams connect to a bigger whole again. And I think the party will enable that for sure, Murielle. But probably we need to think as a management team even on how we facilitate that more, because again, we know that when we perform as a full organization, all connected, it again delivers much happier people and therefore happier business results.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that will happen, but still we are very careful, and the current expectation is only in September that we will go back fully, and maybe not even fully, especially that people don't even want to go back 5 days a week anymore, right?
No.
After spending 18 months, let's say, at home. So I'm also curious to see how this hybrid work from home, work from office solution will turn out. But I think the revolution that we've gone through as well will hopefully create a better well-being for the employees in the end, because work from home, work from office saves time for a lot of people, less stress for a lot of people. So I'm hopeful for the future on that end.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you, Claire. It was really nice having you in this podcast. We had planned it a couple of times already, and this time we did it. So, and
you're welcome.
I hope you got a lot out of this episode. I find that Claire is a very courageous and authentic leader, because courage is not doing bold things. Courage is moving forward despite your fears, is showing your vulnerability to your team, is daring to do new things that are making you uncomfortable maybe. That's courage for me.